Hello and welcome. My name's Vicki Wusche, and if you're watching on video, you'll see that I have two guests with me today, and I will introduce them in a moment. We're talking about, at the moment, how do the kids fit in? And this is Liz and her husband, David, and they are very relevant in terms of the type of clients that I work with and the type of thoughts that parents have in the wanting to help their children. So we're going to dig in to their thoughts and their strategy and everything else in just a minute. But just to give a bit of context, David works for a corporate, so he's very busy all day, and Liz runs her business, in fact, 2 chiropractic clinics, and that's not easy to say, and she's very busy all day. So one of the reasons for working with me is because they can use my time. Their time is more valuable than my time, but what I can do with my time for them is more valuable still. If you can follow that line of sentences, I have to work on that one, I think. So Liz and David, welcome.
Morning.
So let's start off with, what the heck are we talking about here? So what made you, if we wind it all the way back, what made you think that investing in property would be a good idea?
I like bricks and mortar. I understand bricks and mortar.
Sorry, go on.
So I feel much more able to see what's going on with bricks and mortar than I do with some financier playing with money in stock markets and shares and not having any control.
It's the tangibility.
Mm-hmm.
And what about you, David?
Yeah. I've already invested in pensions and things like that, but she needed something. So
I see. Okay. So, but this is very much a joint venture, isn't it? You've set up a business that you are both directors in. But obviously, if you're comfortable and through the corporate line, then having a pension would be great. But this is going to provide financial security for the pair of you, but in a sense, balance it up because there's some more bits here for Liz.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
But also, my pension might not be quite enough, so investing in other things would also top that up as well.
Yes, and that's really interesting, isn't it? That sort of, without being rude, that false sense of security that a pension gives you. So I remember looking at my daughter's workplace pension, and she was like late 20s, early 30s at the time. I know I'm not supposed to say that out loud. She was, I don't know, 15 or 16, right? And we were looking at her pension paperwork, and it said that if she worked all the way till, I can't remember if it was 66 or something, whatever number they gave at the end, providing that's still the law at the end of it, she was going to get £7,000. I was thinking, oh, £7,000, that feels like a lot. Oh, a year. You know, that's what use is that? What use is that? It's just 7,000. That's 500 quid a month, maybe. You know, it's not going to pay. Well, at the moment, it might not pay your electricity bills. You know, it's probably some of the food. And if, for example, if they both got the same, they've got £1,000 to live on, whereas income at the moment will be considerably more than that. It just means that all of a sudden you finally get to step out of work, and then there's no money there to give you all the fun that you want.
No.
Yeah. So good. So what was your first idea for investing in property?
I met you at a conference I was at for chiropractors and osteopathic business owners, and I thought, oh, there's a lady that I think could get us on that way forward and supporting us to get to buy some houses, and a way to go about it that we hadn't thought about. I think it's the best way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And I threw the idea to David, and he went, oh, let's have a meet with this lady, Vicki.
Yeah, I was going to say. And then you came home and poor old David went, what? You were supposed to be learning about your chiropractic business. Yeah. What's this idea you've got now?
Pretty much. Well, let's have a look. He always says yes and says no, but this time it was a yes.
Excellent. I won him over. I do have that quite a lot, in that I may meet one out of a pair and then follow through and have the conversation together. And that's how I think those very first conversations we have, sometimes one, sometimes two, is so important to understand whether one's leading or driving something and the other one's being dragged along, because that does happen in some relationships. Or I had another couple where I'd met the wife, and although I had that first conversation with the husband, I never spoke to him again. He just let the wife get on with it completely. But you two are very much a pair, and I know when we have our regular meetings, you know, you're busy, both of you are taking notes and sharing, right? So that's your job, David, and I'll do this bit. And so you're in it together, aren't you?
In it together for the long haul.
And is that making a difference? Is that helping, Liz, knowing that David's with you?
David's really good at admin. He loves a bit of admin. Okay.
No.
In my mind, he loves admin. He's really good at it. He's really good at it, I think. And so he's actually much more able to deal with emails coming in and spots them far, far quicker than I am. And sometimes I do some bits and pieces.
Yeah, you've had to pick up the slack recently.
And done some stuff. And so it's a partnership, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Maybe you could be admin manager, David, and you pick up the emails and then pass them down to her and monitor
Black
that
hole.
she's doing them.
It's a black hole.
It's a black hole.
Oh, is it really? Oh. You
I'm
drop
the
it in the
ideal
black hole and
person.
then you pick it up 2 weeks later and just do it yourself anyway.
Did you do this? No.
No, but you go on.
I mean, there's some things that we've done as part of the process, which we actually both sat down together and learned it at the same time. Then that was good, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, putting that in place. But we'll tell you later.
Oh, okay. But also, I know that when I have the calls that I have with Liz on her own, when she has an idea that we're going to talk about in a minute, she's really fired up on that. And I think she's the starter. She's the starter one. She likes all of that excitement at the beginning, and then you've got to come along as the finisher, and that makes you a great team. You know, if you just had two starters or two finishers, it's not going to work. So
Very true.
Okay, so we talked about how you met me. So if I remember rightly, I did something like a 1-hour talk and then offered everybody an opportunity to speak to me, and that's where we went from there. And then we started working together. And given that this topic is where do the children fit in, one of the initial conversations we were having was a driving force. Although you've got the pension and investment and generate money idea at the back of it, was actually to get your children on the housing ladder, and you were thinking that would be the route you would go. I feel like as a parent, it's almost like this is a silly question, because I know that that's what you would want to do to help your children anyway. But is there anything you can add to my silly question of why were you thinking that?
I think it was that initial thought we had was that they're never going to get on the property ladder, because as they're going to be earning more money, they're not actually catching up with the price of houses. So we thought we had it hard when we started, and our first house was a doer-upper, a real doer-upper. But even getting a doer-upper is out of their reach. So once they've got it, they can't afford to do it. So a way to give them a hand up to get into that situation. And you said, oh no, there's a different way to get to this bit.
Yeah, and I think one of my things was, and I've looked at so many people doing it this way around, and even my daughter came to me when she first clocked that what I was doing was buying houses, and said, oh mum, will you buy me a house? I went, that's not how it works, lovey. This is an income for my future, and what I don't spend before I pop my clogs will then come to you as an inheritance. This is a job or a business that I'm creating. I'll teach you how. And then she went off and she did it. And yes, of course, there's a little bit of help that goes on, but we didn't give her a whopping great deposit.
No.
The help was the support, the create your spreadsheet, the learn about your money, because actually that's the bit that I think probably is the gap between education and the real world. You know, we teach everybody, oh, you need to add up, you need to take away. And then we don't explain that maths and subtraction helps you work out whether that offer that the supermarket is giving you about buy 3 of the thing that you only want 1 of is actually worth it. And then when you do your maths, you can see that you're paying, you know, another £2 more for something that you didn't really want in the first place, and will go off. And the same with houses. We've got this idea of maths and spreadsheets, and we haven't then joined the link to say, if you keep a spreadsheet of your income and expenses, you will know where you are financially. If you keep an income and expenses and all of the other bits that are going on, you can work out whether an investment that you're going to get into is worth it or not. And we've not made that connection for our children, have we?
No, not at all.
It's definitely missing, and maybe that's something we'll create a whole something some point when we've got some time to help the kids out. So what difference has working with me made? Now, you haven't actually worked either on your own or with someone else, so it's a bit of a weird comparison, but how have I helped you, do you think?
Do you go for that one?
Well, for me personally, you've led us all the way through the entire process. You know, you're very, very experienced in the whole thing. You're very reassuring. You know exactly what steps are being taken. Any questions that we have, you always know the answers. If there are any issues, you will go and speak to the agent, speak to other people to try and iron out any issues. So, you know, you make the entire process a lot more stress-free than it would be if you weren't with us, really. And
Brilliant. Well, good, that bit's working there, because
but then also don't forget, Vicky said you've got to learn to be landlords now, because you thought you were going to get 2. We're not having 2, having more than 2, but now you're a real landlord. You've got to go learn to be a landlord, so you need to do this training course.
Yes, I did push it down that route. So in London, we have something called the London Landlord Accreditation Scheme, which, rather handy since the pandemic, means that you can do it online. So wherever you are in the country, you can take this. And it just takes you through, I think, key components of your responsibilities as a landlord, for landlord legislation. Now, you don't have to become an expert in these, but it's the same as if you're going to have your house repaired in some way, knowing that electrical lights go on the ceiling and switches go on the wall is really helpful to check that is what the electrician does when they come round. You don't need to have to put the wires in and connect them all to the fuse box, but you need to have a sense of where things go. And I think that, or I hope that that's what that course was there for. And then it sort of takes you up a level and makes you more professional, because now you've engaged a bit more. You're not always going to rely on me. I am always here, and you know that part of this is we work together for a year after every property that you bought. So I mean, you're going to be working with me until till one of us or all of us drop dead, I think. But I still wanted you to somehow take ownership, and I hope that going through that course, I think you were sitting in bed watching videos together, weren't you?
Yeah, sitting in bed.
Educational videos, I should just add.
Sunday afternoon. We have to finish this course. We have to score so much, we can't get to the next course.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. And I mean, I go through it. So once you've gone through it, every 5 years you can claim personal accreditation, you know, like the training that you and I will do over all the period, that sort of counts towards it. But also you can just retake the exam again in 5 years, and it just sort of keeps you on your toes. And the legislation just changes all the time. And this is why I've not taught you to self-manage. I've put you with the lettings team so that we can rely on them. But if we sort of bring this back to the whole kids topic, the idea out of this is that you take money that is just not required for daily use at the moment, you invest it into a brick bank. When you need it, maybe David decides to give up work before he's 65 and croaky. Maybe you decide that instead of having 2 clinics, you only want 1 clinic, and you want to adjust your personal income. You'll have a portfolio that generates income that you can rest on a bit more, give you some time to then think what else you want to do. And then if you get all the way through to the point where you're retired and you just both retire, then there's income that you're going to rely on. And then when you get out the other side, you then also got What if the children decide to go to university in one place? Maybe the portfolio subsidizes their rent somewhere. Because again, I meet a lot of parents whose kids go off to university, and your children are never both going to go to the same university in the same town because they won't make life that easy for you. And then they end up with these random properties around the country where they thought that investing in the property so the child could live in it through university was a good idea. And I can see that, but only if that child then sublets all of the rooms to all of their mates, lives rents free, and gives you enough money back to pay the mortgage. Basically, then you're running an HMO and you've come straight into property, bam, hard. So where are you with the children? I saw you wave to one, so one is still presumably in the house with you.
Busy making lunch for work.
Excellent. Hopefully lunch for the two of you for work as well.
No, not enough in that boxes though, Charlotte.
Just thought I'd mention her while she's in the background there.
Hello. This is our oldest one.
You're going to come around and wave, Charlotte?
Can you come and wave, please?
Not looking like that.
Looking like that.
Hey, hello, Charlotte. Looking gorgeous, all fresh.
All fresh. Off to work. I'm a help desk. Late for work.
Oh no. Oh no.
Oh.
Yeah, so have you got any thoughts now that we've been through this process, bearing in mind that Charlotte's probably listening, about what your plans are and how you will support them?
I think you can't go and buy a house for them. Definitely not. I think you've got to put things in place so you can acquire a different form of equity to put towards a house. So when we were doing our portfolio, we've always repaid our mortgages. So we were debating on doing a repayment mortgage versus a interest only. And we've done a mixed bag on that, so that when we've actually paid off the two, then that will go and subsidise the remainder of them. So we also put it up into business. We had to create a company that you helped us get through to arrange a limited company. So we had a company that owned the houses that actually gave our children legacy that way forward. So that actually their partners, partners in our limited company, so that when we die, I suppose, they take over the reins, and so the houses will move on that way. So that will give them much more future pace. I mean, like not just 10 years, like 20 years into the future. That should give them much more income for the future, rather than just having the money here and now. It's a really much more a long-term investment for us. It wasn't we want the money now, we need the money 10, 15, 20 years time.
So in some sense, it's a bit like being a lottery winner. You know, you can either give them a lump sum now, but then the lump sum's gone, or what we're actually doing is creating, in a sense, an income that's going to come out monthly. Because that's the best thing for me about property, is it gives you money on a monthly basis. So it's like a mini wage that's coming along the background, and depending on how you grow it. And I know you've got, not a lot of the landlords do this, but you've chosen a repay part and a capital and interest only part. So you've got one part that will give you more cash flow, and the other one will give you slightly less cash flow now. And then as you move down the line, the one that's been giving you slightly less cash flow will give you slightly more cash flow, and then that will be able to maybe clear off the mortgages in due course. And as you say, 10, 15 years from now, you could be in a position where you're handing over unencumbered properties to the children, and then all of that cash flow is coming through. But equally, it could be coming in at just the right time for the two of you if you want to be looking at retirement, and so the kids won't get a look in because you'll use it for yourselves, and then they'll get their look in a bit later on when you stop gallivanting around on holidays, which I know that, like me, you love. So you're off as well.
Starting to learn to like a holiday.
I know.
Yeah.
Which is great. But that for me is some of the shift that can come out of not just investing in property, but taking control of your money. When you're engaged in what your money does, and then instead of getting, I don't know, a fourth shop bought coffee for the day because it's so convenient because you walk past it all the time. You go, well, actually, all that money I'm spending on coffees, I could be putting towards buying another house. Or, you know, for me, instead of that pair of shoes, I've stopped that habit now, but my shoe habit was quite extreme. You know, now I don't buy shoes, I buy houses. And you start to shift your money. That doesn't mean to say that you don't have fun, because I know by your holidays, and we won't discuss all of that, and I know by my holidays that we are definitely enjoying ourselves right now, and we frequently will bump into one another at food and drink festivals at points around the country, which is quite freaky when you turn around the corner and you've had far too many gin samples and then bump into somebody else who's had a few Aperol samples. So hopefully you didn't notice my gin samples, which is not what you're expecting when you sort of go out and you're away from home. But yeah, it's good fun. And I'm accidentally bumping into another client this weekend at another food festival at Hampton Court, which is quite funny. But I know that they're coming, so it's not going to be quite so much of a surprise. So there'll be less gin samples before I meet them, and then maybe more afterwards. But enjoying life and feeling like you can enjoy life because you've put in place this structure that's going to provide for the future, and you've done it now before you need it. You know, you're not shown up at 65 and gone, oh, Vicki, we need to prepare for our retirement.
Starting tomorrow. No. This was an early bird one, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, I sort of happened at the right time. It would have been nice to have been able to do it earlier, but again, funds were just not there. It was just not the right time, and it was, you know, serendipitous.
Serendipity.
That's
the one. Well, we can have serendipitous as well.
That's the other thing when we're talking initially. Our initial meeting with you was actually how we were going to fund the first bit, because we were going, we'd like to do that, but we haven't got that kind of money sitting in a bank account. And you know, oh, what you do is you need to do this and spend. So we did some thinking about that. That was hard for you to get around.
Was it?
Yeah. But it was that's what we'd like to get to do, and you gave us that pathway to get us on that ladder, and that was the important thing, is how to get from A to B. Well, you didn't know how to that journey to get there. That was the game changer, I think.
Yeah. And I think also, just to sort of be fair to you, yes, we'd all like to have done it sooner. I mean, I didn't start investing until sort of my 40s. I wish I'd done it in my 30s. You know, I think we can all wish we'd done it 10 years earlier. And that's the point. Whoever I'm speaking to now, do it now. Don't wait 10 years and then come back in 10 years and go, oh, Vicki, I'm ready now, because you'll have lost those 10 years. But having said that, 10 years ago, if your children were 10 years younger, the constraints on the family portfolio of cash was different. You've got maybe a more expensive mortgage, or the kids demanding more. I mean, you've just said that your daughter's gone to work, so now she's generating her own money. 10 years ago, she was probably still reliant on you. And it is that challenge. And of course, I think I've become more and more anti-university the further away I've got from my own university career. Is we're putting kids through this 3-year period that is another financial drain on parents to put them through university degrees, which aren't always necessary. Some cases they are, but not always. So they're not earning and contributing, and they are a debt. And so you've got this period between 18 and 21, which if you didn't fall into that pathway, let's call it, rather than trap, but that pathway, your children could be then getting on a career ladder 3 years earlier, and then be in a position where they've not got debt when they come out 3 years later, and you're all as a family pulling more together. There's a lot to be learned from working together as a family, and an upper level to mums and dads, and out the side to brothers and sisters. But that's probably a whole nother podcast that we'll get into another time. So then what I want to do is just to finish this off is take us on a bit further. So we've started having this conversation. You had these ideas, property would be a good way for you to go. You want to create this long-term plan for the children. And we start talking about buying simple buy-to-lets. And the reason that we've done that is because you're both busy and we need to keep the level of admin manageable. But then you've got this little property light bulb going off, Liz. And so then you would send me messages going, Vicki, can we have a chat? I've had an idea. So what are the ideas that you've been coming up with?
One of the ideas is one of my practices over the years, the car parking spaces are becoming tighter and tighter. So it's producing car parking spaces for my clinic so that people aren't stressing about getting to the clinic appointment. So the house next door to us has a very large garden, and they don't actually use most of the garden. They're not gardeners. And so for most of the time I've had my practice, it's been hidden behind a fence, completely unused and unloved. So I thought the best thing to do would be to approach the person about buying the land to create space for a car park for us. That'd be my idea. It's the way in which to get the land for the car park, the most easy way.
Yes, you have conversations.
Isn't always as easy.
No,
so conversations about that, and then what we're going to do with it. The easy thing for me though is that this land is right next to my existing car park, so I actually can just literally just access it very, very easily. So it's not like I've got to make a new road. It's direct access from our existing land.
Yeah. So if it's already fenced off, it's about first of all, speaking with the potential vendor, and I know you've been having those conversations, and then prepping that ground so that it becomes a car park, securing it so that others can't get to it, and then it's easier for you that way round. But you've taken it, you have taken it a step further, and you've got plan B for when you don't need it as a car park anymore.
So when I eventually retire, plan B would be that I'm very lucky that I own the premises that our clinic is in, that actually we could turn the car parking maybe into some building land, either us build a house or sell the land on for somebody else to, with planning permission on, for somebody else to buy the land and build houses on.
Yeah. So really interesting that we've gone from just talking about buy-to-let houses that already you've almost got, I'm not going to say a property bug, but you've switched on to property thinking. You've identified an opportunity with some spare land. We're working together on talking through the steps that you need to do to approach the vendor and everything else. And then now, not only are you going to have this enlarged car park, but also to put it in eventually to be able to put it into a separate entity so that you can get that planning gain. And so when you do then choose, you'll be able to sell your clinic as one going concern, and then the plot of land with planning. Now, that doesn't mean to say that the new clinic owner, if you do sell it to another chiropractor, might not want to buy that land, but that land will be worth more and they'll have to pay more for it. Or they don't want it and you've got the planning gain, or it's not taken by a chiropractic, it's taken by somebody who doesn't need car parking space. So you've already preparing to leverage so that you've got another lump sum lined up in your future there, which is smart thinking. Smart thinking. It's like buying a property that you know that you could extend in some way, but you don't have to expend the expenses now.
Nope,
so
hopefully not.
excellent student there. Very smart. Keep looking for ideas. I know we're talking about another plot of land you've had your eye on. So we just, sorry, David, you don't know about all the little things that she's going to be buying all over the place.
Oh, his label, that is shed. He's a poor man, no shed. He'd like a shed.
You'd like a
Man
shed.
without a shed.
It's not a full man without a shed, is it? You need a shed.
He's shedless.
Shedless. Right, we will resolve that one on another call and get that sorted for you. Well, look, I know that David, the time is ticking and you need to go to work, so we've recorded this quite early in the morning, which is why obviously your daughter was still making lunch and everything. So I just want to thank you very much for your time. I hope that the listeners have really found this useful. So thinking through the process that David and Liz have been through with a classic bit of parental thinking, which is how can I support my children with all the changes and the financial demands that are on them, but actually in the end creating a much bigger, longer financial plan that will support them for years beyond the family's years. You know, it'll support them into creating their own families in the future, and maybe even grandchildren, with this longevity that's going to come from the property business, but also then sparking your interest in professionalizing yourself and taking the course, because you didn't have to, it was just a suggestion, and looking at other opportunities that you can go into. I frequently have calls with people that will send me a WhatsApp message. I've had another idea, and then we'll talk through the idea, and some ideas are goers and some ideas are not necessarily goers, don't make financial sense, and so we just filter all those through. But that's what I love doing, because then from my side, I've helped you, but also I then get the brain stimulation of you bringing problems, and let's look at how we can make this problem work or rule this problem out. So I get a kickback of speaking to you all the time anyway. So as I said, thank you very much to you for your time. To everybody listening, I hope I've been able to put a little bit more whoosh into your life and get you thinking a different way about how you might support your children, not just a lottery lump sum now, but how you could create something that is truly an inheritance for them, truly a legacy for them into the long run. So Liz and David, thank you very, very much for your time.
No problem.
Glad to do it.
Yeah, I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Speak to you soon.